Okay, today we're going to review equation solving in Honors Algebra 2. These should be really fast because they should be very familiar to you, and I'm not writing down some of the steps that I think you're used to. If you write them, that's absolutely fine. But most of you probably did subtracted 7 from 27 and got 4x, and then you divided by 4 in your head and got 5. Okay. Now, number 2, I do want to talk to you about in case anybody's been stickler for making you do it a certain way, because I don't need you to do it a certain way. So I just want you to remember that top number is a multiplier, the bottom number is a divider. To undo that, I think a lot of kids get it better if I say multiply by the denominator 2 and then on both sides. And then after that, because that gets rid of the fraction, which is one of the F words in our class. We don't like them that much, I guess. F times 5x is 40 would be the easy way, and then divide by 5 and you get 8. So I'm happy with that. If you like doing multiply by the reciprocal, or what I call it is the refliprical, flip over the fraction, that's fine. So whatever way makes you most comfortable, but actually this method right here is kind of something I'll be hitting on today when we get into the equations that have multiple fractions in them. So we got variables on both sides. I hope you don't mind that your variable is on the left. If you're writing that step is what I was talking about as far as steps, you don't have to, but it's fine if you do. All right, and then you would have added a to both sides and gotten 21 equals 6 times a. And then here's what I want for an answer. So if you have a decimal on your paper, just put your calculator away and you're going to write a fraction answer. Divide by 6. 21 over 6. I want to see you getting used to doing fractions. Leave your answer as a fraction, okay? Especially if it's a repeating decimal. But what's wrong with this fraction? Yes, go ahead. Simplify it. That's right. Simplify by reducing it. So we're going to divide both top and bottom by 3, and that will reduce down to 7 halves. So I'd rather see that. I mean, it's not bad to have 3.5, but most fractions, just leave them. Just leave them as fractions. Distributive property, just remember that you have to distribute to both terms within the parentheses, so you should have a negative 12 times x plus 4 is equal to negative 10 times x plus 40 minus 14x, and that is your first step. The next step would be to combine your like terms on the right-hand side, which would be negative 24x plus 40. Then I would add 24x to both sides, which would give us 12x positive plus 4 equals 40. Subtract 4 from both sides and get 36 on the right, and 12x on the left, and divide by 12. And you should have a solution of 3. Good? Okay, how many of you are still ahead of me? I just like to kind of get a feel for where things are going. All right, thank you. Not that you have to be. All right, now, this is what I was talking about looking only at the denominators. So, LCD, someone want to tell me what that means? Go ahead. Good, correct. Lowest common denominator. So, what's the lowest common denominator between 6 and 12? First thing you should do is check, does 6 go into 12, the smaller one? Does it divide into the bigger one? It does, so the LCD is 12. So, we're going to multiply each term by 12. One way to show it is to put parentheses around your entire equation and put the 12 outside. How I'm going to show it this time, though, is I'm going to multiply 12 times the x. I'm going to bring down the minus sign. I'm going to multiply 12 times the 5/6. Bring down my equal sign, and I'm going to do 12 times my 2 12s. Now, I'm showing this because I want those who are a little bit fraction phobic to get what I'm doing. And once you get it, you can skip steps in between depending on how good you are and comfortable you are with the fractions. 12x would be 12 times x. Now bring down minus. If I look at this, I want to look, before I multiply, instead of doing 12 times 5 and getting big numbers, this would be a little simpler. If I said, well, 6 is a divider. How many times does 6 go into 12? Well, twice. So now I can just do 2 times 5, and I can just use my brain and not mess around with my calculator. And then over here on the right, the 12s cancel out, and you end up with just 2. And 12 times 2 is 24. 24 divided by 12 is 2. It's all good. We're going to add 10 to both sides of our equal sign now and get 12. And then we're going to divide by 12 in our heads and say the answer or solution to x is 1. So now on number 6, we're going to look at your fractions and the denominators only and determine the LCD. I got a 4, a 5, a 2, and a 4. Got to have 4 involved in my LCD because it's twice as big as the 2. 2 goes into the 4, but 4 is not good enough because there's also a 5. So multiply those two and get 20. 20 will be divisible by 4, by 5, and by 2, and that would be the correct LCD. So multiplying by 20 is what we are doing. Okay, I'm going to show it the long way again this time. 20 times my 3/4 x minus 20 times my 3/5 equals 20 times my 5/2 x plus 20 times my 1/4. Now, I realize that you may have to squeeze this in to show it is like I'm doing it. I obviously am going to have to erase part of that after I show you the problem so I can do the next one. Or I'll scooch it down here. Okay, so what I'm showing again is that I'm dividing 20 by 4 right now and getting 5. Then I'm going to do 5 times 3x, which would be 15x. I'm going to do 20 divided by the 5 and get 4. And now I'm going to do 4 times 3, which would give me 12. And yay, the fractions disappear. Right side, 2 goes into 20 10 times. 10 times 5x, 50x. Plus, last fraction, 4 divided into 20 is 5, or 20 divided by 4 is 5. 5 times 1 is 5. Okay, no more fractions. Yay, that's what we're trying to get. I'm going to go ahead and subtract 15x from both sides, so I'm going to drop down the negative 12. I'm doing 50 minus 15x, 50x minus 15x, which is 35x, and there's still a plus 5 over there. Okay, next I'm subtracting 5 from both sides, which would be negative 17 on the left and 35x on the right. Divide both sides by 35, and I'll write the fraction answer, negative 17/35, which does not reduce. And I don't need you to turn that around. Does anybody remember the property in geometry that allowed you to switch that? And to say x equals negative 17/35. Just curious, anybody remembers their geo proofs? It's called the symmetric property. Remember that? Oh well, it's okay if you didn't. I'm not going to make you write down what property you used. We're not doing those proofs. I teach it though. All right, so in proportions, how can I solve this one differently than I was solving those other ones? You remember what it's called? I got to start learning Trinity. Cross multiply. Awesome. Yep. Okay, so I'm going to cross multiply, and I'm going to need to distribute. So when I say this, if you don't really see what I'm saying yet, just put 4 and then a parenthesis, x minus 3, 4 times x minus 3, and then the other side will be 6 times x plus 2. Once you get good at this, you'll go ahead and just do the distribution and not write this step. That is absolutely fine with me. So distributing 4 times the x and minus 4 times 3, which would be 4x minus 12, and the right side would be 6x plus 12. Now careful, don't assume those 12s are going to cancel out. Okay, we're going to subtract 4x from both sides, leaving us negative 12 equals 2x plus 12. We need to subtract 12 to isolate the 2x. That'll give us negative 24 equals 2 times x. And then we'll divide by 2 and get negative 12 for our solution. Okay? All right, now I'm going to tell you something, and I know a lot of you will forget. If I star something, I am giving you a big hint. You will see this again, and this question, number 9, is going to be the most missed question on the first quiz. Okay? So, wonder why. This is something different about this problem than this problem. Just trying to have you analyze a little bit. What do you think we must do first to solve this? We got to say that again? We sure do. You need to get rid of that first. All right, so what are you doing? You are, now once you start learning what I'm thinking about, what I'm saying vocabulary-wise, we are going to isolate the fraction. The fraction part has some algebra stuff in it. So what? You got to get it alone first. Okay, so we want to subtract 4 before doing anything else. So negative 2 times x plus 10 over negative 5 equals 13 minus 4, which would be 9. Now the problem's pretty easy. You could treat it as a proportion if you like. Once you isolate that, you could just put it over 1 if you like. You don't have to. You can just multiply both sides by negative 5, okay, which is going to give you the same result as cross multiplication at this point. So negative 2 times x plus 10 is equal to negative 45. Okay, next I subtract 10 and get negative 55 on the right. And then I divide by negative 2, and my final answer will be 55 over 2, because we won't leave a negative over a negative. Positive 55 halves. Okay. Anybody still need this? Yes, ma'am. I didn't. I did skip number 7. Oh, I know what happened. I wrote so much over there, I just kind of forgot about it. So I'll fix that. Let's go back to number 7 because it's important. It wouldn't be on the paper. Okay, I'll just erase some of this because that's why I forgot about it. Okay, it says distribute first. Not absolutely necessary, but if you were to multiply both sides by 4, then that would still require you to distribute by 3 afterwards, so it's really better to distribute first. So multiplying these guys, 3 times 4 would be 12. Remember, you do numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. If anybody saw that you could reduce that, that's okay too, but you got to be careful. 4 times 5 is 20, so I got 12 20ths x minus 3 times 2 is 6. You only do the numerator, multiply the numerator by 2, and then you'll have a 4 in the bottom, equals 11/4. Now, this problem is not done, it's going to be done multiple ways. You could reduce right now, everything, and then you could look for an LCD. You could clear the fractions out now by multiplying by 20. You could add 6/4 to both sides and then deal with this. Okay, it's not just one way, and personally, I'm not going to be telling you that you have to have it my way or which way I did it, okay, as long as you get it right. So I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of the fractions. I'm going to multiply everybody by 20. Okay. And I'm just going to kind of put it next to each one of them. All right, so 20 divided by 20 is 1, so I'm going to have 12x. And I'm going to do the cross-canceling here. 4 goes into 25 times. 5 times 6 would be minus 30. Bring down that minus sign. And then on the right-hand side, 4 goes into 25 times. 5 times 11 would be 55. All right, next I'm just going to add 30 to both sides and divide by 12. So I got 85/12. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to leave it that way. It doesn't reduce. Oh, already did those two. Now we'll do a few word problems. I know kids kind of find that to be a scary thought. Get over it. You're going to have them all year. They're going to come up. There's applications, and that's the reason the math's there in the first place, is application. So I'm going to try to help you learn how to, if you weren't great at them before, I'll try to make you good at them. We're going to break them apart. But the most important thing is, what's the question? That's like where you want to begin in a way. But I'm going to read the whole problem first, because then I kind of have an understanding of where I'm headed. So I got a real estate broker's base salary, $18,000. You got a 4% commission on total sales. How much must she sell to earn $55,000? Okay, so that's my question. So what do I need? I need to assign it I'm assigning a variable to that. All right, that's why you need a variable. That's why we have algebra. So I'm going to let x equal sales. What her sales are. Or, yeah, what was she? Okay, so now we're going to think about, well, what could I write down about her sales and about what she's making? So I need an equation about how she's going to make her money. Okay, so I know it's going to equal this, right? That's what it's going to equal. That's on the right side of my equation. So I'm going to start off with she's getting paid. What's she getting paid? 18 grand plus a 4% commission. 4% as a decimal would be, you move it, oops, okay, yep, oops, I don't know why I got my eraser there, 0.04. All right, I got to multiply that times something. What is she getting 4% of? And in math, of means multiply. Of what? What she's going to sell. Sales, X. Okay, and that combination of her base salary plus her commission is what she makes, and she wants to make 55 grand. So she's trying to figure out what she's going to have to sell to do it. Good strategy and a very great life skill for the workplace. Subtract 18,000 from your 55,000, or from both sides technically. Done this already before, but I guess I don't feel like thinking that hard, so why don't you guys do it and calculate it for me? 37,000, thank you. And then use your calculators and try to divide, well, do it, 37,000 divided by 0.04. I'll pop up my emulator. If it's on. No. I've just got poor memory on this laptop. Okay. 37,000 divided by 0.04. She's going to have to sell 925 grand worth of merchandise. Okay, so she must sell $925,000 worth. I want labels. A short little sentence is fine. And it needs to be labeled. If it's a word problem, it should be. If it's money, it's money. If it's people, it's people. If it's bugs, it's bugs. Okay. Okay, you have a summer job that pays $5.60 an hour. Oh, this is an outdated worksheet. Minimum wage is considerably higher than that, but we'll go with it. $5.60 an hour. You get $8.40 an hour for overtime. That's anything over 40 hours. How many hours of overtime must you work? There's your question. To earn $287. So that means it's going to equal $287, sort of like the last one, easy to break down. So I need to have a variable X that stands for, you could have used an H, I don't care what letter you use, but H will be, or X will be, hours of overtime. Yeah, let's just write OT. Okay, guys. Anyway, you want to tell me what I got, how are you coming up with your salary? How are you coming up with what you're going to make? Yep. All right, Taylor? Is it Taylor? Taylor, right? Taylor. Okay, so you got that 40 hours coming, so 40 times the 560, or like she said, reverse that 560 times 40, absolutely fine. Okay, your overtime, that's when you're getting paid on your overtime hours. That's it. Great. Thank you. And 40 times 560, please. 200 and what? 224? Alrighty, and then we will take 287 minus 244. Subtract 224 from both sides. That's going to be 63. And divide 63 by 840. Okay, so your calc says 7.5. I don't know why I wrote that. She, he, or you need to work 7.5 hours overtime. And if you write 7.5, that's fine. But would you say that to your friend? If you're telling your friend how many hours overtime you work, what would you say? 7.5, yeah. So I wrote 7.5. Okay, we got a new iPad recently purchased in Algonquin for $464.40, including tax. That's a town in Illinois, east of here. Their tax rate typically is higher, but now we're ahead of that tax rate that they used to have. They're past that now. The tax rate 8%, and that thing includes this amount right here includes tax. So that means that's going to come after your equals again. Okay, so find the price of the iPad before taxes. So X is going to be the price of the iPad. Okay. We gotta, let's see, when you buy an iPad, you gotta buy the iPad. You gotta pay for it. It's X. But you also have to pay taxes on it. And the rate was 8%, 0.08 times the cost of the iPad has to get added on. And that equals $464.40. Now, you should have done problems similar to this in Algebra 1. So this is technically review of things that you've seen before. All right, now, how do I add, though, an X plus 0.08X? And someone may have seen a shorter cut that would have gotten you right to that. This concept's important. What's the coefficient or leading the number in front of X? Yeah, it's those, remember those, these are, I call these the phantom ones. You're assuming there's a 1 in front of it, you're assuming there's a 1 under it, and you're also assuming it's a first power. A lot of weird ones that aren't there, but they're kind of there. All right, so anyway, this is 1x. So if you add that, you got 1.08x, and that's not a negative sign. I just made a stray mark. Equals 464.40. Okay, so what is that 1 standing for if you're thinking of percents? Pardon? 100%. That's exactly what it is. It's 100% plus the 8%. So that's all it is, and that's a good concept to remember. All right, 100% plus 8%. You got to pay for the whole thing plus the tax. All right, divide it out, guys, and tell me that iPad was $430. Okay, iPad. Oops. And there should be a dollar sign. I think that's our last one on there. So I'm going to pause the recording because what we're going to do now is I'm going to get people books, or if you're not going to choose to take a book, you're going to take a picture of the book page that's assigned, and then we're going to do some more examples, and I'll start up after that. Okay, we're going to pop on over to worksheet 2 in the packet. All right, pretty much, actually, you just multiply both sides by 5. Oh, I got a jumper again. I best. All right, you can multiply both sides by 5 for number 1. 2m would equal 5075. Oops, I just write a 2 for. And then we'll leave it as a fraction, just like before. So m is going to be 75 halves. Just make sure here that you isolate. So just to start this one off, the first step is to subtract 3. Don't multiply by 15. Subtract the 3. Then multiply by 15. Okay, I'm just going to skip on. You can finish that one up right now. If I can get my, there we go. Not really seeing many that I feel like I need to go back over with you. So I'm not going to do a bunch of them, save time. Think I'll leave 3 and 4 and move on and see if I see anything. Already went over these. What the heck? I'll just go through and make sure you've got the answers. So you might be ahead of me. That's totally fine. 15x equals, was that 225? You should have gotten x's 15 for number 3. Number 4, we're doing it with cross products. 14x is 20 times 21. Is that 420, right? Should be. And then divide by 14. Don't know. 30? I should have known. Okay, number 5 and 6. Number 5, I'm just going to multiply by -2. By the way, I want to say something that I hope you'll hear. Please keep your fraction bars horizontal. All right? If you're copying down a problem or you're doing a problem, you want to keep them horizontal to realize that x plus 4, all of it's in the numerator, or vice versa. If all of that was in the denominator, it makes it much easier for you to keep control of your problem if you just keep your fraction bars flat and not like that, okay? All right, multiply by -2, got x plus 4 is equal to 34, and then your answer should be 30 for number 5. Okay, number 6, we got those. That's a starry one because you need to get rid of that 4 first. Add 4. All right, so we got w plus 3 over 5 equals 10. And then multiply by 5 and subtract 3 from both sides. Okay. 7, don't forget, subtract 3 first. Keep your fraction bar flat, horizontal. So you take away 3 from both sides, you're going to get 4 minus 2x divided by 5 equals 6. Dividing by 5, to do that, multiply both sides by 5. After you get 4x minus 2x, 4 minus 2x equals 30, and subtract 4 from both sides. And then divide by -2 and get -13. Now you see, oh, there's a decimal in number 8. Well, you have a calculator, but it's really not that bad to do without one. 9 times x plus 4 all over 5 is equal to 13.4 when you add 8 to both sides. Okay, next. Multiply by 5. 9 times x plus 4 is equal to that. 5 plus 2, so it'd be 67. Subtract 4, get 63, and divide by 9. And your answer should have been 7. Good. All right, number 9. Now it says practice, so that would be where what you want to complete. So I do believe, though, there's something I should still do that we didn't have an example. Do you see anything unusual on the back? To be or not to be? There's some stars, exactly. So what's the first one? I've gone over all of these except a starred one on this page, which is different. Yep, 16. And there's a reason. Let's see, some of you clever people. Why is this one double starred? Because there's a y's multiplying. Is that what you said, sweetie? Okay, Okay, so what happens when you multiply y times y? So I've heard 2y, I've heard y squared, I've heard 2y squared today. Okay, so let me explain, because you haven't been doing a lot of algebra lately, all right? Y plus y, that's 1y plus 1y, which would be 2y, just like if you got 2 M&Ms. Okay. If you multiply them, that's different. Okay, y times y is when you're doing an exponent property that says if you multiply like bases, you add the exponents. So that's actually y times y is y to the second power, not 2, because these are 1y's times 1y's. All right, so this is, so I'm glad to hear those thoughts so I can straighten anything out. There's a misconception. Y times y would be y squared. 25 times 9 is 225. And then we have to do undoing of squaring. Now, if you notice on your calculator, and you've all done this because you did quadratics, okay? And you're going to learn more about quadratics than you ever wanted to know in one unit this semester. We'll learn all kinds of stuff about quadratics. Very important topic. You take the square root of both sides, but caution, how many numbers can you square that will give you a positive? So, isn't there more than one thing you can plug in here? Negative or positive. Okay, that's when you had a problem with a variable where it's got a squared term. Doing this only gives you one answer. It's called the principal root. Okay, that's just 15. It's not plus or minus. But when you have something squared, you have to add on plus or minus. There's two solutions that squared will produce the 225, and they are both negative and positive 15. Okay, plus or minus. Whenever solving a problem with a variable squared, you get two solutions. That's why they make parabolas. That's what we'll find out. All right, anyway, that's all I got to say for today. Do your page 22 and your worksheet 2AB.